I will call to order the semi-monthly meeting of the Rhode Island Coastal Resources Management Council to order. Today is Tuesday, November 12th, 2024. I would ask that the record reflect the council members that are present this evening, as well as CRMC staff members that are present here as well. First matter on our agenda would be approval of the minutes of October 10, 2024. I know they've been disseminated. I would ask for a motion to approve them, please.
So moved.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? That motion carries. Subcommittee reports. Laura?
Mr. Chair, the Rights of Way Subcommittee met prior to this hearing tonight on the Spring Ave potential right of way. They finished going through the motions with one pending and agreed to reconvene at the first meeting date in January of 2025.
Any questions of Laura on that report as it relates to the Spring Avenue right of way? Any further subcommittee reports?
No.
Okay, staff reports.
Yes. First is an explanation as to why I'm here and not Director Willis. He's at the Northeast Regional Ocean Council meeting in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. This is Jeff is actually a co-chair of that group, which coordinates state and federal programs that have overlapping responsibilities with regard to ocean and coastal management. The Northeast Regional Ocean Council is the first of 8 that currently exist and was started by Governor Carcieri in 2005. The states first got together at the under the leadership of Carcieri and then brought in the federal partners. So that is why Director Willis is not here and I am here in his stead. The second item is an update on the 312 review that we undertook from October 15th through the 17th. I know that Director Willis had informed you all about that evaluation. It was a evaluation by our federal partners, which is required under Section 312 of the Coastal Zone Management Act every 5 years. There were 14 sessions over 3 days. We had consultants, partners, and other stakeholders participate, as well as some council members. There was also a public hearing held, and there were 47 public comments received. A draft of the team's findings is expected by the end of the year, and we should have a final report by the end of January 2025. And I would like to take the opportunity at this time on behalf of Director Willis to thank all of those who participated. They took time out of their busy schedules, both during the business day and after hours, and it was very much appreciated. Thirdly, the CRMC is currently participating in 2 legislative study commissions, both of which have started meeting since our last meeting. The first of these is the commission to make a comprehensive study and provide recommendations for remedies to the erosion of Rhode Island beaches. And that's chaired by Representative Asnar Westerly. Their purpose is to study, to undertake a comprehensive study and cost analysis in order to provide recommendations for remedies to the erosion of Rhode Island's beaches. Their report is due to the House of Representatives on January 5th, and the commission expires March 25th.
Can I just say, I happen to watch that. Emily from our
Yes.
fund is on, from our council is on that, correct?
Yes,
From
Emily
our
Hall.
office. Yeah.
Emily Hall, the coastal geologist.
Yep.
Yep. And the second legislative study commission is that the legislative Legislative Study Commission on Climate Change Impacts and Solutions, and that's chaired by Representative Court Reed. The stated purpose of this commission is to conduct a comprehensive study on the issues confronting the state due to climate change and various adaptation and mitigation strategies. Their final report is due to the House on May 14th, 2025, and that commission expires June 18th. And finally, just an update on the Charlestown Breachway repairs that Director Willis has been keeping you informed of. Those repairs were completed at the end of October. It was truly a collaborative effort between the town of Charlestown, the governor's office, Representative Spears, Senator Gu, FEMA, DEM, and CRMC, among others. And it was a really gratifying process to see everyone come together in such a rapid way to address a really urgent problem. The next step now is to start working on a long-term solution for the breachway that accounts for the challenges of climate change and sea level rise. So we've been busy. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Any questions of the council, by the council for Laura? No, all right, thank you. It'll bring us to our applications for this evening. The first application before us is an application which has been out to notice and before the council for review and action. First one being 2024-04-003. Donna Hostetler, Diane Bardsley, and Thomas O'Gorman. It's an application to construct and maintain a residential boating facility consisting of an 85-foot fixed pier, 17-foot ramp to a 10-foot by 15-foot terminal float, terminating at 50 feet from mean low water. It's located on the Winnapaug Pond Plat 143, lots 55 and 57, Snowberry Lane, Westerly, Rhode Island. The applicant's present this evening, or yourself,
Yes.
sir?
Kelly Fracassa, I'm the attorney for Tom O'Gorman, Donna Hostetler, and Diane Bardsley.
Okay, I'm sorry, spell your last name again, please.
Fracassa.
Thank you. Amy, you have this one for us?
Yes.
Okay, if you could just report for us,
Yes,
please.
thank you, Mr. Chair. This application, as stated, is an application for a residential boating facility located on an undeveloped lot, which is identified as lot 55, and is associated with a developed lot, lot 57, identified as 5 Snowberry Lane. Those two lots are separated by an undeveloped, vegetated, what we call a paper street that appears to be part of Snowberry Lane, if you look at the plat maps. It is pretty standard practice for CRMC to permit a dock on a small undeveloped shoreline lot that is adjacent to a residential lot owned by the same owner. In this case, across a street, either developed or undeveloped, is considered adjacent by the CRMC. And we have developed a deed restriction that is issued with an assent that states that for the purposes of this permit, the two lots are considered as one and therefore prohibits the dock lot from being sold separate from the residential lot. Excuse me. The proposed dock is typical of CRMC standard residential boating facilities and has no variances. At the terminus, it will be at approximately -2 feet mean low water. During the public notice period, 3 objections were received. One was from the abutters to the east on Snowberry Lane. One was from an anonymous member of the public, and one was from an anonymous owner on Snowberry Lane. The gist of the concerns raised by those three objections were scenic impact, water use conflicts, too many docks along the shoreline, and the proposed dock would interfere with water-dependent uses and a nearby mooring. Reviewing staff, Peter O'Rourke, reviewed the objections against the substantive objection criteria in the Red Book, section 1.1.6G, and is of the opinion that the objections received do not rise to the level of substantive, excuse me. Since the council agreed that the objections are not substantive and approves the application, a standard dock ascent will be prepared with the associated adjacent lot dock deed restriction.
Any questions of Amy from the council? Okay, thank you. Hearing none, attorney? Council?
I do have two witnesses. We're going to basically explain the project tonight. We have Carolyn Doyle, who is the engineer. She designed the dock, and Joe Klinger, a biologist who did I guess he looked for seagrass in a particular area around the dock and where the dock would be located. So if I could have CJ come on up. Wherever you'd like.
Before you get curious, do you swear or affirm the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Could you state your name again for the record, please?
It's Carolyn. My nickname is CJ Doyle, D-O-Y-L-E.
My understanding is that the council does not accept additional exhibits during the hearing. I do have resumes. If you don't want to accept those, no problem. I'll just examine her as to her qualifications.
Has she been an expert here before?
Yes, I have.
Why don't we just go through it then?
That's fine.
Okay. Could you tell us your educational background, Mrs. Doyle?
I have a bachelor's degree from Brown University in civil engineering and a master's degree in environmental engineering from Worcester Polytechnic.
And do you have any current registrations?
Yes, I do.
And what registrations do you have?
I'm a licensed professional engineer in Rhode Island, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. And I also carry OWTS designer license and soil evaluator's license.
How long have you been a registered professional engineer in Rhode Island?
Rhode Island.
Just roughly.
Testing.
10 years, more than 10
Oh,
years?
no, more than 30.
We'll leave it at that, more than 30. And are you currently employed?
Yes, I am self-employed at my own business.
All right, and what is your own business?
The name is CJ Doyle PE, and it's a civil engineering firm.
And how long has CJ Doyle PE been in operation?
Since 2011.
And prior to that, what were you doing?
I worked for other engineering firms. The most recent was Terenzia Engineering. And prior to that, I was in business for myself on Cape Cod.
Okay. And as far as your current business, what do you typically do in your current business?
I do a lot of site plans, stormwater design, dock designs, septic system designs, and all of the permitting, DEM, CRMC, town permitting, all of that.
Roughly, in your career, how many docks have you designed? Just roughly. 50 docks? And have those been, how many of those have come before this council or been approved by the CRMC?
Oh, maybe. Well, most of them have been approved by CRMC. I would say probably 8 or 10. front of the council.
Okay. And you've testified before this council?
Yes, I have.
Correct? And on what subject matter?
Dock designs, I think I have appeared in relative to septic systems related to other permitting.
Okay. And have you been accepted as an expert witness in dock design?
Yes,
And have you testified before any other municipal boards or state agencies?
yes, most of the towns in South County. And let's see, Department of Health, I believe I've appeared before.
Not too many of those are going to involve docks, is that correct?
Correct.
All right. How about the courts of the state? Have you ever?
Council, I think you're satisfied from all of us, her background, her professional qualifications. We don't qualify them as experts, so it's the weight that we afford her testimony, but I think you've built a good summary of her qualifications. Unless anyone from the council has a particular question, I think we could just start asking her questions.
Oh, good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Doyle, what involvement did you have with this project?
I was involved in the groundwork with the scope of where the dock might go. Had conferences and phone calls with Ecotones and coordinated various pieces of the information that were necessary for the dock design, and then actually did the design and the application.
Okay. And have how long is this dock?
Okay, it extends 50 feet from mean low water. It has there's another 72 feet that's landward of mean low water, so the total is 112 feet. 85 feet are fixed dock, 17-foot ramp down to a 10-foot terminal float. So total length is 112.
Okay. And are you aware of the depth of the water at the end of the dock?
At the terminus, yes, we meet the requirement of 18 inches minimum depth at the terminus of the float.
Okay. Were there any other concerns that you had with regard to this particular application?
One of the concerns was the setback, the 25-foot required to both property lines, either a butter. The abutter to the, let's see, west is the same applicant. They own that parcel as well. So we oriented the dock so it hugs that property line or that extension of the property line. And we're 25 feet from the abutter to the east. There's also an existing path that extends from 5 Snowberry down to the area where the fixed pier will begin. So it minimizes all of the disturbance of vegetation, that sort of thing.
And did you review the objections which were submitted?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And what was your reaction to those objections?
Again, I don't believe that they're substantial in nature. We are not requesting a variance for any component of the dock. We were able to work it out. We believe this is the best location for the dock in terms of no SAV, the depth of the groundwater or depth of the water at the terminus of the dock, and to minimize any disturbance of the wetland or abutting vegetation.
And how about, did you consider moving the dock westward more?
Yes, actually, to move it westward, we would, the wetland line is further from the existing path, so we'd have to basically create a path to get to any dock on the abutting parcel. The water depth also at 50 feet from mean low water is not sufficient to give us the 18 inches at the float. So the dock would have to be longer in length. We'd need a variance from the 50-foot to mean low water for the extent of the dock.
Do you know offhand how far out you'd have to go to reach 18 inches? off the top of your head?
I would say another 10 feet,
The 10
10,
feet?
10 to 12 feet at a minimum.
And that would require a variance, correct? Any other variances other than the length of the dock, do you know?
I don't believe so.
And any other concerns or any other responses to some of the objections which were lodged?
Some of the objections were the visual impacts, and we've minimized the length of the dock, so we've minimized the visual impact. To move it to an abutting lot, it would actually be longer and more of an impact. I think that's about it on the visual impact.
Now, as far as if I remember correctly, I think the regulation said something about scenic impact. Do you know what standards are employed to determine a scenic impact?
I'm not aware of a written standards that I could abide by.
Anything else which you'd like to add or discuss?
I think that it's done.
I have no further questions of this.
Any questions of the council? Ms. Doyle? No, okay, thank you.
Just a question, because I'm not familiar with the procedure up here. I know that there was a counsel who represents the objectors. I don't know if they do cross-examination now, or that I just don't know.
No,
Okay. Joe Klinger, please. Mr. Klinger, if you could, oh, wait a minute, he needs to be sworn in.
You raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And your name again, please, for the record.
Joseph Klinger, Klinger.
Thank you.
Mr. Klinger, could you go through your educational background for us, please?
I have a bachelor's degree from Franklin and Marshall College in Pennsylvania in geology, mostly coastal geology, and a master's degree from the University of Rhode Island. My thesis was also coastal geology. And subsequent to that, I have a lot of graduate coursework in ecology and biology and wetland science and so on.
And do you hold any registrations in those fields?
I'm a certified professional wetland scientist, and I am also certified, that's the right word, by CRMC as a invasive species manager, low impact development designer, I think that's the term.
Are you currently employed?
Yes, I am.
How are you employed?
I'm vice president and principal environmental scientist at Ecotone Incorporated.
And how long have you held that position? Oh, strike that. How long have you been affiliated with Ecotones?
22 years.
And what does Ecotones do?
We're an environmental consulting company specializing in coastal and freshwater wetland work, soil evaluation. One of my niches is submerged aquatic vegetation and other subtitle research and document monitoring.
Have you testified before this council before?
Yes,
Roughly how many times? Just roughly.
3 to 5.
And subject matter would you testify to?
Coastal geology, wetlands. I think all the submerged aquatic vegetation has been handled straight.
And the times that you testified, have you been qualified as an expert?
Yes.
In those fields?
Yes.
Have you testified before any other municipal or state agency, say in the area of biology or anything related to coastal biology?
Yes, say probably most of the towns in Rhode Island, some in Massachusetts. No, if I test, probably a DM, but I can't recall those just official testimony.
Okay.
so I think you established an adequate educational professional background, and any council members have a particular question. You can proceed then.
Thank you. And Mr. Klinger, what involvement did you have in this project?
I got involved when we were trying to locate the dock, working with the applicant and Ms. Doyle on the general layout, trying to figure out my first task, which was to see if there was any submerged aquatic vegetation. So as CJ talked about, water depth, wetlands, abutting property lines, those kind of things. We're trying to figure out where I should go and look for eelgrass or widgeon grass.
All right, and what did you figure out in that regard?
So essentially where the dock is proposed, we had a study area of about 3,600 square feet, about 40 foot wide and about 90 foot offshore. That would give us an envelope to work in if we did find some submerged aquatic vegetation.
What'd you find down there?
We did not find any SAV. Muddy to sandy, some cobble near shore, and fair amount of algae throughout.
And what's the significance of your findings with regard to the dock permit?
Since there's no SAV, there's no standard that needs to be met for the SAV standards. So we didn't have to be concerned about shading of the bottom that would impact any eelgrass or widgeon grass.
Have you done any other SAV studies in the area?
Yes, a few years ago, I did the dock that's 2 properties to the east of this proposed dock.
And what did you find there?
Similar conditions, no SAV, mud to sand bottom.
Okay. Now, you're a licensed captain, is that correct?
Yes,
Captain of what? Who are you licensed by?
licensed by the U.S. Coast Guard, 50-time inland master with the towing endorsement,
And how long have you been so licensed?
16 years.
And so you've navigated quite a number of boats quite a number of times, is that correct?
Yes,
All right, and you're familiar with getting in and out of docks such as the one proposed here, is that correct?
yes,
All right, and you're familiar with the location of the dock next door at 15 Snowberry Lane, is that correct?
yes,
All right, and you visualize the distance between the location of the proposed dock and their dock, is that correct?
correct.
All right. Now, given the water depth in the area and where the dock is located, do you know what types of boats if this is approved, that the applicants would be able to use and not use?
Well, generally in the pond, they're going to be relatively small boats, and Winnapaug is pretty shallow with lots of shoals, but it's also the clearance under the Atlantic Avenue Bridge is 6 feet at mean high water. So the boats in this area are going to be relatively small.
And you've navigated those kinds of boats before, haven't you?
Yes.
All right. And based upon your experience, do you foresee any type of navigational issues, either a boat exiting this dock or bringing a boat back vis-a-vis the dock at 15 Snowberry Lane?
I don't see any constraints.
And why not?
There appears to be plenty of room based on the plan dimensions. The proposed dock is over 40 feet from the closest mooring, where that mooring is within 30 feet to the abutting dock. See, the nearest channel, it's not a marked channel, but the natural channel is approximately 100 feet from the nearest corner of the proposed dock. And the dock also respects the 25-foot property line offset that's partially intended to prevent those type of conflicts. So there's actually more room between the proposed dock and the nearest mooring than there is to the existing mooring and existing dock.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I think the only other thing is that the dock in this location actually preserves a greater stretch of shoreline to the west that helps not fragment the fringe of salt marsh that's there and provides more recreational activity from the right of way that's at the furthest western extent of these areas.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Like, any questions of the council? Mr. Klinger, Mr. Gomez.
You mentioned Warrenfield, and you indicated that that was not a problem.
Correct. There's actually not a mooring field. They're individual riparian moorings.
And they, how are they located? Is that under town supervision, or how do you get a mooring where they are?
There's a process municipally, and there was some confusion on a mooring that got put in near this proposed location, and that mooring was subsequently moved and properly licensed, or whatever the term is, with the town of Westerly. And then the project surveyor located that mooring so that we could make sure that we understood the distance from this proposed dock to that mooring.
So that's settled, I guess.
Yes, and like I said, that mooring,
Okay, another question is on the SAV. Did you look at alternate sites, or did you look at the extent of that area? And did you determine that, there were problems elsewhere, or there were no problems in general for the whole area?
our detailed study area was that 90 by 40 area around the proposed dock location. I did swim around just to see if anything was around. I also, at that time, the next nearest mooring, I swam out to that, so I had an idea of where that was. I did not find any SAV in the vicinity.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Okay,
The only other witness I may present is Tom O'Gorman, just for background of the site, maybe answer some of the objections. I'm not sure if the council would want to hear that, so.
it's up to you, Chair. Presentation or?
Tom, come on up.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
And your name for the record, please.
Thomas O'Gorman.
Mr. O'Gorman, where do you reside?
162 Maplewood Drive in East Greenwich, Rhode Island.
And your date of birth, please?
August 10, 1963.
All right, and you're familiar with the property at 11 Snowberry Lane, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
All right, and that's just a vacant parcel, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, and there is another parcel nearby, 5 Snowberry, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, and that parcel is developed, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and when did you, do you have an ownership interest in 5 and/or 11 Snowberry?
Yes, both of them.
All right, and when did you obtain those interests?
November of, I believe, 2 years ago. It was a gift granted to me from the guardian of my uncle's estate.
All right, and you took title to both of those properties along with Donna Hostetler and Diane Bardsley, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, so you co-own both properties in equal proportions, is that right?
Yes,
All right, and the property next door to the west at the 13 Snowberry Lane, you took title at the same time, is that correct?
yes, I think you have it mixed. I think to the west, the 13 is the parcel where the dock proposal is, and 11 is the property to the west. I believe there's so many different identities to the property. Anyway, but
You're right,
Yes.
I screwed them up. But you own that along with Donna Hostetler and Diane Bardsley, is that right?
yes, that's correct.
All right, so all of these 3 properties you own, all 3 of you own them and in the same proportions, is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, now, there is another right of way piece of property extending from Cove Road down to the shoreline. You familiar with that?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Yes.
and you own that lot again with Ms. Bardsley and with Ms. Hostetler, is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, and you took title to that at the same time as well, correct?
Yes, correct.
So all of those lots, the right of way lot, lot number 5, which is developed, lots 13 and 11 down on the shoreline. You own all of those and in the same proportions. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Now, the right-of-way lot, which I'm going to call, is immediately adjacent to lot 5. Is that correct? 5 Snowberry Lane?
Yes,
All right. And it's immediately adjacent to 11 Snowberry Lane. Is that correct?
yes,
Okay. So your lot 5 is actually physically connected to this right-of-way lot, which you own, to lots 11 and 13. Is that right?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Now, 15 Snowberry Lane, are you familiar with that property?
I am very familiar.
Okay, and how are you familiar with that?
I have, it's been a property that's been in our family since the 1930s. I spent summers down there growing up, and intermediately, in my adult years, I've gone down there and spent a week at a time. It was property that my uncle used for rental income. So I'm very familiar.
All right, how long have you been going down there?
Well, my mother probably brought me down there when I was a toddler, so I'd say 60 years.
All right, 60 years, all right. And how many of those 60 years have you been going down there?
I suppose 60.
All right, 60. And what sort of activities do you participate in down at the shoreline over those 60 years?
Right.
Today?
Well, actually, I was out of the country for a while, going to school.
Okay.
So there were some summers where I was not able to get down there in that area. In terms of the activities, swimming is big, snorkeling, boating, paddleboarding, shellfishing. Not so much now, but when I was younger, we did a lot of shellfishing. So you can name again, we've been in kayaks and canoes.
All right, and in the area which in this particular area, where do you typically go swimming?
We go swimming by there's a right of way that connects that's adjacent immediately to the west of that strip of land. 67A is the plot number. That goes from Cove Road right down to the pond. And there is, at the end of Clamshell Drive, there is a little right of way where community members go down and use the pond and access the pond. And that's the area where we swim.
Okay. And you're familiar with the area where the proposed dock would be located, is that correct?
Yes,
How often would you go swimming in that area?
very rarely. I mean, we use it as a pass through or pass by, but that would not be a destination
Why not?
to swim. There are rocks by the shoreline, and there's very mucky conditions there. So,
And how does that compare to the area where you would typically swim by the other right of way, which you just talked about?
there's really no comparison. It's much nicer. Down by the right of way, the sand is firm, and it just has a natural sort of arc going into as well. So there's no comparison.
All right, have you done any type of clamming or quail hogging or shellfishing in that area?
We're
Anywhere in the whole area there?
Oh,
yes.
All right, and this is Winnapaug Pond we're talking about, right?
Correct.
And closest to where the dock site, the proposed dock site, where would you go shellfishing?
We would go to the far right, looking south, so the western side. There's a point there. We would go shellfishing there. My late mother, Gloria Bellavoino Gorman, taught us all how to shellfish, taught us the best places in the pond where we would be able to get the different types of little necks. We're Rhode Island here, so these things are just call hogs, but we know them by little necks, cherry stones, sea clams.
And how about the area where the proposed dock is? How good is that for shellfishing?
No, it's too mucky, really. I don't think I never shellfish there.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, and in the particular area, I'm going to show you this. even though we're not gonna be introducing.
Okay.
Yeah. But we're just going to go through couple of types of things here. If we can look at, I would say it's the 5th page.
Yes.
There we go.
Agenda packet.
We know that.
That is in the agenda packet.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. Taking a look at the 5th page there, we see
Could you describe it so that the members can find it in their application pack, what you're looking at?
yes, I believe it's the 5th page which includes the 1st page where it says response to objections. And the title of one of the photographs at the upper left is objection of too many docks. Pages are not numbered, but
You want to just hold it up for us? Okay.
see a photograph to the right on that page?
Yes,
All right, and do you recognize that area?
I do. Yes, that's the western side of the cove.
Okay, and where's that area in relation to the dock side?
Probably about over 150 feet, going up to about 300 feet or so, if you follow the curvature of the cove.
Okay, could you see the dock side in this photograph?
Yes,
All right, and where would it be?
the dock side would be pretty much right. You see the skip there, that the children are playing in. That's my family and so it would kind of be if you were at the stern of the skiff.
Yeah.
And going toward the water,
Mhm.
it would probably be right about there,
Okay, so it's something you can see.
right in that
in the
area.
photograph.
Yeah, right in the photograph.
All right, and you have 4 red arrows, and those are pointed to what? Because I can't see.
Yes, so these are 4 docks that were on the western side of the cove. And this photo was from 1970.
How do you know?
The original photograph has APR 1970
Okay,
in the days of black and white.
all right, you see the people in the boat, correct?
Yes,
All right, you recognize any of them?
I sure do.
And you know how old they were at the times, right?
Yes,
All right. Like around 10 years old, is that right?
yeah,
Okay,
probably the oldest one.
all right, and the photograph on the left side, the one that's in color there, that was taken in September of this year, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, and what does that show relative to the black and white?
It shows only one dock on the west side of the cove.
Okay, so that's the same area in the color photograph as shown in the black and white, is that correct?
Yes,
All right, yes. So all those other docks are now gone, is that correct?
except that one, correct.
Okay. All right. We go to. I think it would be the second page. Just showing it.
Small boats, correct.
Yes. And we see 2 photographs of 2 boats, correct?
Yes.
And the one on the right is what?
The one on the right is our boat. Actually, my brother-in-law's boat.
And can you describe that boat for us? How long?
About 14, 15 feet long. You can kind of see,
Looks kind of like a flat bottom boat, is that correct?
it doesn't have much. Yeah, it's fairly flat, yeah.
Okay. And how deep does it typically sit in the water? Just roughly.
Considering water, probably about a foot or so.
Yeah, I'd say 10 inches.
Yeah.
Now, the boat on the left is your brother Mark's boat, is that correct?
That's correct.
And how does that boat compare to your boat?
It's similar.
And you've seen Mark navigating his boat in and out?
Yes,
And you're familiar with the issue regarding propeller wash, is that correct?
yes.
All right, and have you observed, and when you observed your brother using his boat off of his dock, on the property over there. What, if anything, have you observed with regard to propeller wash?
Well, I really don't know, because I suppose you'd have to be under, be submerged in that. But,
So basically, he's got a motorboat pretty much similar to yours, is that
Correct.
correct? Now, you wouldn't be using any boats larger than the one which is shown in that photograph on the right, is that correct?
we do have a 19-foot Starcraft, but that would come into the pond perhaps for short periods of time. We probably trailer it in. We are going to be looking into getting a riparian mooring for the property as well. But this would be the main boat that would be at the dock.
Well, the Starcraft, is that something that you would dock at this particular dock, assuming it was approved?
It could, it could dock, and we keep it on the mooring, and then when you fill the boat, people get on, just drive up to the dock and come up.
Can it handle 18 inches of water, operating in 18 inches?
Yes.
Anything else you'd like to add?
Let's see, so, the concern about the propeller wash, I just want to point out that we have followed all the regulations and the standards that CRMC has asked of us to do. And the dock, on the left of this photograph, on the left photograph, that was built prior to CRMC regulations. So if there really were any boat that would be subject to the propeller wash concerns, muddying the water, it would be one that would be docked at that dock.
But it's a valid dock, right?
It's a dock, yes, and 4 posts, it stands.
Okay. No further questions?
Council, would you agree with me that the sheets you were referring to as applicants, what I've marked applicants A and applicants B
Yes,
from your submission to the council?
I would.
Thank you.
Any questions of Mr. O'Gorman from the council members? Okay, hearing none,
I have nothing further.
okay. Is there anyone else present this evening that wishes to speak in favor of the application? Okay, anyone that wishes to speak in opposition of the application?
Yes, Chairman Jeff Eager.
Come forward, council. Good evening.
I represent Stacy and Mark O'Gorman with their objection to the application.
Are they going to be testifying?
Yes,
I'll swear them both in then.
thank you.
You raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God?
Yeah.
Could you each state your name for the record?
Stacey O'Gorman.
Mark O'Gorman.
Thank you.
Mr. and Mrs. O'Gorman, you filed an objection to this application, correct?
Yes,
And Mr. O'Gorman, your brother's with the applicant, correct?
correct.
And this is all family property you're fighting over?
Yes,
This was property that was owned by your uncle Ed, and he broke up the property and distributed amongst the other kids now.
correct.
And is everybody getting along in your family? Are you planning holidays together down there this year? No. Is there a big fight going on?
We kind of just don't really speak much. We're just trying to mind our own business, really.
Any physical confrontation going on regarding the boundary lines? between the property?
Objection, this is getting a little far afield. Objection for the record.
Nothing physical.
Has there been any behavior that's opposed to your ownership?
I'm sorry, what? I couldn't hear you. That's why.
Behavior that's opposed to their ownership interests.
I'm also going to object for the record, same grounds.
Yeah, we've responded. We received some harassing behavior down there, which we had to notify the police of the behavior that was going on. So there's a documented police report.
Can you describe what that was?
It's basically, watching my girls, take showers down there. And their friends, their young friends, I have like a 12-year-old daughter.
Watching your kids take showers? How do
Yeah, they have an
do that?
outdoor shower and, basically watching them come in and out of the shower and the changing room for several hours, watching me cook a whole meal for an hour. So a lot of like harassment behavior, has been going on.
How do they see the shower and how do they see it? in the
They're,
picture?
they're positioned, our angle, our property, they're positioning themselves right to the corner of the shower.
Chairs next to the.
And they-
the shower,
They've set up chairs.
it's how to tap to the water.
Yeah, they've taught the path.
I'm sorry, you just put one person on
I'm
the
sorry, go ahead.
They've carved the line, they disturbed vegetation and made a path within 10 feet of my property line so that they could launch public and stuff. So this was done probably around Labor Day weekend.
That path,
Probably
that exists before.
but
You're looking at a photograph you took when? Did you take this photograph?
yes,
When did you take it?
probably just a matter of
It was after Labor Day weekend.
it's after Labor Day weekend.
Did you alter this picture in any way? No editing whatsoever?
No.
And you just got it developed?
Yeah.
Stacey, did you develop this today?
Yes, I did.
Anybody else touch this picture?
No.
Is it fair recollection of the existing condition as it is right now?
Yes,
And you're saying this path was cut there 10 feet from your line?
yes.
Did you see who did it?
We're pretty sure we know.
We didn't see who did it, but it happened.
Objection, speculation now.
Yeah, I wanna at this point, and council jump in if I'm misstating over here. I think you've fairly established there's some tension amongst the family members. But I would ask that you present testimony or evidence as it relates to the objections to the dock, i.e. what's already been stated, the scenic vista part, the too many docks, the water quality and things like that. I don't think continuing this will do anything further than establish. I mean, from your first question,
Well, there was
there's a little disharmony amongst the family.
The CRMC and the investigator did go out there, I'm sure it's in the records. And they said that they were going to add something to the permit regarding the cutting that has been done. So that's why we're bringing it forward.
So that there would be no more clearing going forward because that area appears to be being cleared a little bit at a time.
Like to offer
And
this
that's
to
the
the
same,
council?
that is the same lot that the dock is being proposed on.
So why don't you mark that as objectors 1, make sure you show it to the attorney for the you guys can decide later if you want to accept it or not. He's testified to.
Right.
So he'll offer it and you can not admit it.
We have to go to. Ordinarily, we never accept evidence that hasn't been given to the council.
It was in a within a
With all due
particular
respect,
timeframe.
this was just printed today
15 years or so.
and I just obtained it today. And I have not had an opportunity to submit this before today.
Council.
So you can submit it and then I don't believe the council's going to admit it as a full exhibit though, but you can submit it as for what it's worth and you don't have to accept it. Doesn't have to admit it as full, but he'll have created the record that he offered it as part of the testimony. Yeah, I would just say, we have, as the chairman said, we're here on a dock application and we have standards for approving or disapproving dock applications and the testimony seems to be away from that issue.
Seems that, Mr. Chair,
I would,
we're supposed to be looking at, there was a couple of objections. One was view, one was too many docks. And the one was an impact on water uses. That's what I want to hear about. I don't much care. I'm not a priest. I don't hear confessions. They can take their problems home and solve them at the bar room or someplace.
All right,
So it is going to affect our,
With all due respect, this relates to this application that. the
Okay,
place-
council, why don't you move along and testify on those issues?
Where do you think the placement of this dock is done? Where it's environmentally friendliest? Or do you think it was for some other purpose?
I'm sorry.
Objection, speculative.
Why are you objecting to this dock?
because due to the angle of the property lines, the further the dock juts out, it is basically in front, going to be in front of my seawall. Okay, because all I know is I look out there now and I see these buoys floating around right in front of my seawall. So all I can envision is a dock right in front of the seawall.
Affecting your view and going into, do you swim in that area?
Yeah,
Is that gonna affect the swimming?
I'm sure it will,
Like, do you boat in that area?
yes.
Now, you heard testimony that your brother gave in terms of that your family's been using this for quite some time. Is that true?
It's been in our family our whole lives, so the ability, yes, we were.
What does this dock do to your frontage swimming area?
It's going to, push us over. Further, further to the east. It's not that great for, my kids to be swimming,
And you have a mooring in that area, correct?
yes.
And you heard testimony that it was approximately 30 feet from the proposed dock?
Probably between maybe 35 feet, would be my guess.
You heard testimony it was about 30 feet from the proposed dock. And so does that allow you to maneuver your boat?
It makes it more difficult.
The normal standard is 50 feet from a mooring field, but this is not in a mooring field. But is it going to keep you from operating your boat?
It could have an effect on it, especially at night,
Could there be a chance you could hit the dock?
yes.
Do you think that's a safety problem for you?
It's a safety problem, yes.
About your wife?
Absolutely. And if you look at this picture right here, you can see one of their survey markers, and you can see how it's relative to our mooring, which swings around. It's actually relatively close. It's much closer than what they're saying. So this is the picture here.
And so what else do you do in that area in front of your house in the water?
Fishing,
Fishing? So if you were to cast out there, is there anything that would be in the way? Would this dock be in the way?
of course it would.
Okay. You also heard testimony from the engineering firm that they could actually move it to the west, out into the water another 10 feet. Would you have an objection to that?
That would work out better for us,
Why would that be better?
because it wouldn't be right in front of them. It wouldn't be affecting our view as much.
Or would you be able to maneuver your boat better?
Yes,
Would the overall aesthetics be better for both of you in your way?
And also maneuvering around paddleboarding, that's going to make it really difficult. As you can see this picture right here, the proposed dock location will be actually where the kids are paddleboarding. So that will cut that off from there.
So that's a nice calm day picture. It's not always like that, is it?
No,
You ever get storms there?
absolutely.
So how do you maneuver around if the storm comes and you want to get back to your mooring slip? There's a dock in the way. Do you find that there's a problem? Is that part of your objection?
Yes, it'd be very difficult with the winds and the tides.
You understand that, they may need a variance to do something if they chose to move that dock, or if the council wanted them to move it over a little bit to allow them to go farther out to make it deep enough. You wouldn't have an objection to that, right? That would cost them engineering costs, legal fees, and other costs. Would you be willing to pay for all that?
We would like to know exactly what would be
we would
entailed.
definitely consider it if we knew how.
Assuming it was in the range of $5,000-10,000 estimating, would you be willing to assist the applicants in re-engineering this so it does go out another 10 feet so they can get the requisite amount of depths that they want for their dock? And then it would be your You're asking that it be moved west, correct?
Correct,
So that you would be able to use the water in front of you?
correct.
And that, and you would pay for the engineering costs for that change?
And so you're assuming it's between like around $5,000 or $10,000?
I have no idea what it's gonna cost. I know that it will cost them something. Are you willing to pay for that, to move that dock to the west?
If they can come up with the estimate, then I could definitely answer that question, but yes, I would definitely consider doing that.
Now, you had some other statements you wanted to make this evening, is that true? You want to make some statement to the council?
I think one of the issues that came about, and we've already discussed it. I don't want to see the lot next to me, cleared anymore. And if, to my knowledge, okay, it is supposed to be in notes against this dock application to let the applicants know that clearing is not allowed. And I don't know if that has been done yet or not. But that's a major concern. They have a massive amount of property, a massive amount of shoreline, but yet they've set chairs up right next to our property line, and they cut a path to the water right next to our property line. If they had done this further over on the other lot and I saw them clearing, I wouldn't care. I'd be like, whatever. You're doing it right next to our property line.
Not only that, it's up against our seawall where they cleared, so there will be erosion there, up against our seawall, which will affect our seawall.
How old's the house that you live in?
It was built in 1937.
So has your family used that house for a while? And your brother's been to that house,
Yes,
and you've all used that house before?
yes,
And there's a dock in front of your house, a small one, correct?
yes.
And you guys all swam off that your whole lives?
Yeah.
Is this proposed dock gonna change that?
Yes, it
The
is.
use of that water in front of that house that you've been using for all these years?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Is there any other objection that you'd like to make?
I would just like to say that, the investigator that went out there for the clearing of the wetlands, did state that they were going to move forward with putting something on this permit that no other additional clearing would be done to the wetlands. And he did go out there and it is in the records. So, we are looking for, some additional language that the wetlands on this lot will not be touched any further. It was cleared, it was cut twice. It was cut, we have pictures from how it originally looked, and it was cut the previous year, and then it was cut this September as well. So this is not one incident. There was been 2 incidents of touching the wetlands without a permit. And we want it noted on file, and we do want something written in a permit about clearing further wetlands on this lot.
In addition to that, didn't you have some suggestions about the shape of the dock?
The biggest problem is not the walkway of the dock. It's the platform pointed towards us. If the platform was pointed the other way, towards the west, it wouldn't have it wouldn't be taking away our view, water usage in front of our seawall, and probably wouldn't have been opposed to it. But the main issue is it's smack right in front of my seawall due to the lines of the property.
Just to be absolutely clear, the dock comes out of the land and you're on the left side as you're looking out on the water. And you're asking that the council make the end of the dock go to the right, which is pointing towards the west, correct?
West instead of like the east.
Would you be acceptable to that business?
Yes.
I have no further questions.
Any questions of Mark or Stacy or Gorman from the council? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else present this evening that wishes to speak in opposition of the application? Attorney Fracassa, anything to conclude?
I really don't have anything, substantive. I think I'm gonna leave it at that. I'll just rest on what's been presented today.
I have one question of the applicant, if that's okay.
Sure.
I noticed the Army Corps approval here, and it had some very specific directions on how this would be implemented. Are you aware of those, and are you going to build this in accordance with the directives given by the Army Corps?
He absolutely is.
And you're familiar with what they had to say in the directive? Okay. Thank you, that was it.
All right. Any follow-up questions to Amy on this one? First, Mr. Flynn.
I have a question, I guess for Amy. Amy, is there any language about prohibiting additional cutting on the property that's part of the ascent? Or would be part of the ascent?
Two-part question. Cutting in the wetland is prohibited regardless, so there doesn't need to be language in any ascent about cutting within a coastal wetland that's considered to be coastal feature. It's a blanket statement, you're not supposed to do that. As far as any cutting that is occurring upland, if the council wishes, I just did the math of what the buffer zone would be according to the CRMC regulations. The 3 lots, actually it's 4 lots. The other long skinny lot is 0.37. Let me add that real quick. So the 4 lots that are owned by the applicants, as discussed, total an area of 76,665.6 square feet, based on the town of Westerly plat maps on size. For a lot of, and when lots are owned in common ownership, we add the lots together for the purposes of establishing a buffer zone. Adding those lots together, the buffer zone size for this property would be 125 feet. I think it's entirely reasonable if the council wishes to require that 125-foot buffer as measured from the inland edge of the coastal feature. Looking at the plans, pretty much the whole lot from what I can tell. So we can codify the pathway that is shown on our submitted plans that stops at the dock. There's a, if you look at the plans revised 10/5/2024 by CJ Doyle, it does show a dashed line of a pathway that curls in and stops at the dock. We can codify that pathway and also codify what the buffer would be for all of those lots together.
And Amy, on the suggestion that the I guess direction of the platform at the end of the dock be switched so that it's more westerly than easterly, would that affect your review at all of this application?
I would have to ask CJ or Joe if they did any depth soundings there. That float, which will have float stops, so it does not set on the bottom at any point in time, is clearly designed, if you follow the bathymetry line, to be where there's additional water depth. So if they were to slide that float, so the ramp came smack in the middle, or if it were flopped to the other side, so the ramp were on the west side of that float, it would be in shallower water, and it may not meet our depth standards at that point. So it was clearly designed to make use of the bathymetry out there and get the most water without being excessively long.
It's important.
It would possibly need a variance. And then they would still be utilizing very likely the west side of the float because that's where the water is.
Any further questions? The council in a posture for a motion. Mr. Gomez.
Just based on the expert testimony that has shown that the mooring fields are not a problem, that the SAV is not a problem. Views, we typically don't consider in our as an impact. We have no regulations that I know of it, with the exception of some very exceptional view sheds. I would move approval of the application as it stands.
You mind if I rephrase?
As presented, no, I don't mind. You got English, I've got.
Okay, so as I understand it, then you find the assertions and conclusions in the staff report, in the testimony of the applicant through their witnesses and in their application are more credible than the testimony and evidence submitted in application to the application. You don't find that the objectors are raised and the objections have risen to the level of a substantive objection under our regulations. And you find that the proposed dock adheres to the policies, prerequisites, and standards, the enforceable ones, because on that issue of view, you're correct. So that the proposed dock adheres to the policies, prerequisites, and standards of our regulations, and it will not result in significant adverse environmental impact or significant use conflicts, including taking into account the cumulative impacts. And you therefore move for approval with the standard stipulations.
Yeah, that's what I said. No, I agree.
That's your motion.
Is my desire, yes.
Motion's been made by Mr. Gomez, seconded by Mr. Izzy. Any discussion?
Yes, I have a comment. Can that motion to approve be subject to a declaration of restrictive covenants to combine the lots?
That is, yes, your motion was with the staff recommendations, that is one of them. Yes,
Okay,
that's it. That's part of it.
I didn't hear.
That's one of the stipulations that staff recommended, Joe.
Any further discussion? Hold the council. Mr. Flynn.
Aye.
Mr. Izzy.
Aye.
Mr. Gomez.
Aye.
Mr. Russolino.
Aye.
Mr. Gagnon.
Aye.
Ms. Reynolds.
Aye.
I too, Raymond Coy, vote aye. The application has been granted.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
He doesn't know I said so much. Even though he went to law school, I'm still talking that he's captains and admiral. Be gone.
Just thinking,
No, that's fine.
that's now in a regular
You
decision.
know, at this time, my wife,
Well, that's the sense of what you wanted.
no, it's fine. Exactly. No problem. My brain understood that.
All right, next matter will be Application before the council for public hearing and action regarding special exception. That being 2024-07-019. Rhode Island Energy to rebuilding of existing L14 and M13 115 kilovolt transmission lines through portions of Portsmouth and Tiverton, crossing the Sakonnet River. CRMC portion of the project extends from Boyd's Lane, Portsmouth to Riverside Drive, Tiverton. The project will result in the permanent alteration of 548-foot. Says two of squared of coastal wetland and 101 square feet of freshwater wetland. Project requires a special exception to 650-RICR-00-1.2.2 parentheses C parentheses 1 parentheses D and parentheses C parentheses 2 parentheses B period, in accordance with section 1.3.1 parentheses L parentheses 5 comma 1 comma 815 square feet of mitigation wetland will be created exceeding the 2-to-1 replacement requirement. Alteration to freshwater wetlands falls under exception 650-RICR-00-9.6.3 period. Located at lines L14 and M13, Portsmouth and Tiverton, Rhode Island, period. If the applicants are ready, they can come forward, please. Amy, you have this one?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a bit of a mouthful, this project. The CRMC is reviewing a portion of a very long linear utility project that extends from the Massachusetts line through Tiverton, across the Sakonnet, through Portsmouth, down to, I forget the name of the road in Portsmouth. Project, due to its length, extends within DEM's freshwater wetland jurisdiction into CRMC's freshwater jurisdiction and CRMC's coastal jurisdiction and back into DEM's freshwater wetlands jurisdiction. During pre-application meetings, the question was asked, who will review this one? Typically when projects are either on the line or straddle the line being the jurisdiction differences for freshwater wetlands. CRMC staff and DEM staff discuss the project and through our memorandum of agreement, determine who is going to be the primary reviewing agent to avoid duplicative efforts with applications. In this case, however, primarily due to the fact that most of the freshwater wetland impacts are up in northern Tiverton near the Fall River line, not anywhere near CRMC's freshwater jurisdiction. But there are coastal impacts in Boyd's Marsh. It was ultimately determined with CRMC staff and DEM that the project would be bifurcated. And Boyd's Lane through Riverside Drive.
Yes.
Boyd's Lane in Portsmouth through Riverside Drive, just on the other side of the Sakonnet, would be CRMC's, and the two wings of the project would remain with DEM. The application materials contain all information for the entire line. However, we focused only on our portion of it. And there's a few images in the staff report trying to explain that. As noted in the summary that you gave, Mr. Chair, there is a special exception for this project for the permanent alteration of 548 square feet of coastal wetland within Boyd's Marsh that could not be avoided. There is other disturbance to the coastal wetland that will be temporary in nature and will be restored after the project is completed. Again, you can see in some of the aerials in the staff report, this utility line extends right up through Boyd's Marsh and appears to have been constructed at some point in the fifties or the sixties. And little areas of the marsh were filled in, utility poles were placed on them, and they are not of sufficient size for the newer, safer and upgraded utility poles. As required by the Red Book, there is a mitigation area of 1,815 feet of new, coastal wetland that will be created. At this, you can see it, it's highlighted in purple in my staff report in an image. That exceeds the 2-to-1 mitigation requirement. No comments were received during the public notice period. And the only concern under the Red Book beyond the granting of the special exception is that Rhode Island Historical Preservation and Heritage Commission, HPHC, has not yet issued their sign off on this. They had some questions, I believe, regarding the Sakonnet River Bridge and that crossing, and they were meeting with the applicant to get that clarified. Staff believes that the application does meet the criteria for issuing a special exception. And should the council agree to the granting of this special exception, staff recommends approval of the project conditionally or holding the asset until that HPHC sign off is received, and has also recommended a couple of stipulations. One stipulation regarding having an environmental consultant on board to monitor the entire project, as well as the mitigation effort and monitoring of the success of that for 3 years after completion.
Okay, any questions
Just
of Amy?
primarily discussing Portsmouth. So
Yes, because the jurisdiction in Tiverton ends on Riverside Drive, which is just a couple of feet away from the edge.
Yeah.
So the utility line, the utility pole that's on that side is entirely in upland. And I'm not even sure if it's within 200 feet. So there's no freshwater wetland impacts, and there's no coastal impacts on that Riverside Drive portion.
Yeah.
The impacts are on the Boyd's Marsh Portsmouth side.
I should know where it is, but Boyd's Marsh is,
It's just to the southwest of the golf course.
yes, I know, okay, that's Boyd's. All
Yep,
right, all right.
That's Boyd's Marsh, that big old wetland.
Okay. I got it.
And that's where the impact to the wetlands is and the.
Correct. If you look at
and mediation.
if you look at the images in my staff report, you can see the utility line runs kind of southwest to northeast, back through the middle of the wetland.
There'll be a couple of black ducks that get mad at you.
Temporarily, they will be.
It's fine. I've got the picture now.
And the mitigation area is.
The mitigation area is,
Boyd's,
if you look on my staff report, my pages, I'm sorry, are not numbered. It's the second to last page of my staff report. There's a side-by-side image. One is a snip from the application package that shows the orange highlighted line with a little purple bubble that says salt marsh mitigation area. And an aerial image where I circled the 6 pads that are of insufficient size and will end up having anywhere from less than 30 square feet of permanent impact to 100 square feet of permanent impact, totaling the 500. And the mitigation area, instead of being a bunch of little pieces around the 6 pads, is going to be in one location.
Any further questions of Amy? So if you could identify yourself, please.
Sure. Good evening. My name is George Watson. I'm attorney at Robinson and Cole. I'm outside siding counsel for the Narragansett Electric Company. You may note that some of the application work references Rhode Island Energy, but for the purposes of permitting, the applicant is the Narragansett Electric Company, which is the only authorized owner of the assets.
Okay.
Um,
Okay, you've heard the explanation from staff. Anyone? I'm just gonna jump over your shoulder for a second. Is there anyone that's gonna speak in opposition of this application tonight? Okay. So anything you'd like to add to what's already been talked about, submitted, discussed?
The only thing I'll add is that it's a 7.9 mile line. It was built in 1954. The importance of these lines is that these two transmission lines provide the sole source of power to Quinnipiac Island and also to Jamestown. So it's a very important line to the extent that the current structures are insufficient. I think they're not sufficient size. They're also wood and original, so they're rotting, and they're currently often supported by guy wires. We're replacing those. All structures being replaced with steel structures, some direct in bed, some on concrete foundations. I have 3 project witnesses here to the extent you have any further questions. I've said about as much as an attorney is allowed to speak to when it comes to the engineering of a project, but we have Tom Arias, who's a project manager, and we have Mark Ryan Smith, who's with Rhode Island Energy as the environmental lead. And then we also have Melissa Kaplan, who's with BSC Group as the environmental consultant.
Any questions of proposed witnesses of the council? Is there anything you'd like to handle?
I guess one general question.
Yeah, Mr.
not
Flynn.
The witnesses in particular. Your application materials talk about how this line is problematic and has a lot of failures in the past. Part of the reason that you need to redo it. I don't think anyone's going to have any issue with that. But my question is, I didn't see any reference in here to an alternative that would bury the line. And if you have a line, I know it's more expensive. You know, I don't have to tell me that. But in a location that is as much trouble as this location seems to be, do you ever at least evaluate the cost and benefit of that? Because I didn't see any reference to it.
First, I just like to say thank you. It's good to see you again. We did look at burying the line. That was one of the alternatives that's considered in the siting report. It was not included in the filing. That alternative was dismissed though because of the cost and also the ability to primarily the cost, but it's the ability to get the rights too. And then you also have the difficulty of the Sakonnet River crossing, which would either have to have the wires rise up to go overhead, or you would have to do some kind of drilling from point A to point B. So in light of the cost, it was that option was not pursued, which is often the case when you have existing overhead infrastructure.
It was talked about.
Oh, it was talked about in the
5.1.3. Section of the filing, it was mentioned.
I must have missed it then. Okay. Thank you.
And ma'am, you are,
oh, sorry, this
Yeah.
is well, we have just sworn in.
Melissa Kaplan, BSC Group.
Okay. Do you swear to affirm the testimony you give tonight, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
And just for the record, we just stated when the where the alternative will discuss in the filing to the CRMC.
Section 5.1.3 of the avoidance and minimization and mitigation section talks about the underground root analysis that was looked at for an alternative.
Are these utility poles going to be about the same height as the existing ones?
No, they will be taller. And that's part due to the new code. I mean, they're modern. The lines within 64. In order to comply with modern electric code, there's greater clearances. So, and it's also, they're going with steel structures, but it's all code driven.
The wires tend to be a little heavier too, to be more weatherized. So they tend to have more sag, so the structures need to be a little taller too.
Has there any outreach in the community been done so that people are aware that this doesn't look much different?
Yes, we've had we had open houses in Tiverton and Portsmouth. We had I think 11 individuals show up at the Tiverton open house. We had one at the Portsmouth. It was noticed to the abutters. We've also had public comment hearings in connection with the EXP proceedings. Those hearings were both in Tiverton and Portsmouth. The Tiverton one was focused on the tap line, which hasn't been discussed here, but there's actually two projects going on with the M13 and L14. There's the tap line, which is the line that runs parallel to 24, but it stops right at Fish Road. Then there's the main line, which goes more inland, and that's the line that goes from the Mass border to Dexter substation off of Boyd's Lane or Old Boyd's Lane. Dexter substation in Portsmouth.
Any further questions? Anything else you'd like to add?
I'm all set.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. I have asked for the record if there's anyone else that wishes to speak on this application, either in favor or in opposition of it, so no one has responded to that, so we have before us an application that requires a special exception, so I would entertain a motion first on granting or not granting the special exception. We would vote on that and then the application in general. So is there a motion on the request for a special exception?
Yeah, I'd make the motion to approve the special exception based on the testimony provided tonight and the staff report. So Mr. Gagnon, is it safe to say that you find the assertions and conclusions of the staff and the applicant through their testimony and their reports to be credible? And that the application is for a public energy infrastructure to serve, which serves a compelling public purpose, which benefits the public as a whole. All reasonable steps will be taken to minimize environmental impacts and use conflicts. No reasonable alternatives to the proposals is feasible to serve that compelling purpose. And you move approval of the special exception with the standard stipulations, the staff stipulation regarding environmental overseer, and the approval of the HPHC.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Izzy and Mr. Russolino. So we've got a motion with a second. I will now poll the council. Mr. Flynn.
Aye.
Mr. Izzy.
Aye.
Mr. Gomez.
Aye.
Mr. Russolino.
Aye.
Mr. Gagnon. Ms. Reynolds.
Aye.
I too, Raymond Coy, vote aye. So the special exception has been approved. I would now entertain a motion on the application for approval of the application as presented. Someone want to make a motion that John's gonna.
Oh, darn.
Mr. Russolino has made a motion to approve it.
Mr. Russolino, is that based on the similar findings regarding the credibility of the staff and the applicant? And your conclusion that the application adheres to the policies, prerequisites, and standards of our regulations, including the variance regulations? And you therefore move approval, and that the approval will not result in significant adverse environmental impacts or use conflicts, including cumulative impacts. So you move approval with the standard stipulation, the staff stipulation regarding environmental overseer, and the subsequent approval by the HPHC.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so that's affirmed. Is there a second? Mr. Flynn has seconded it. Any discussion? Having none, I'll poll the council. Mr. Flynn? Mr. Izzy?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Russolino?
Aye.
Mr. Gagnon?
Aye.
Ms. Reynolds?
Aye.
I too, Raymond Coy, vote aye. The application has been approved. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Let me see, is there anything else? Yep, nothing else to come before us. Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
My wife never sees that motion I made, and she'll think she married somebody else.
I was gonna say, where did we go to law school?
Thank you.
Thank you.
The less words, the better. Yes. Because his ears turn off, let's say, 30 seconds.
I profess no expertise on dock. Shipping. I can't captain a boat.
I made that out.
Narrow expertise. Writing the defensible.
Right.
It might be much too bad, guy.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And now they.
The other guys,